And now I'm pleased to introduce the author and mentor of Solo and Smart, the roadmap for a supportive and secure future, Carol Marak. Good evening.
Hi, Jeffrey. How are you today? Hi,
I'm
everybody.
well.
I'm so glad that you're joining us this evening. And so just buckle up. There's a lot of information here. Please, before I get started, just want to remind you to grab a pen and pad because you might want to take notes. I'm going to walk you through a very brief what I call a summarized type of life plan assessment. So you might want to take notes. I think you will. So just get a pen and pad and let's get started. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, the name of this is Simplify Life's Needs. Hang on, simplify life's needs of aging alone. And trust me, audience, this is not my first presentation. I think Zoom just likes to play with me. So while you're aging alone, I too am aging alone. And I knew that because I was a family caregiver, that I needed to learn how to simplify the challenges that I helped my parents with. So this webinar is really going to go through an overview of the top 10 life domains. And each one of them are equally important, and each of them can put us at risk. And then we'll talk about the specific domains that require attention. And then we will do a brief, we will complete a very brief life plan assessment and then talk about next steps and then open up for a Q&A. So a little bit about me. As I said, I was a family caregiver. And from that experience, I realized that growing older is very complex, and it's also pretty worrisome, actually. So while I was helping my parents, I realized that I don't have a loving daughter to watch out for me. So I needed to get my act together and put myself in a position where I am strong, secure, and safe. And I did a lot of research. And I wrote the book called Solo and Smart, which came out of all of that research. I had also started an elder orphan Facebook group, and I created that group back in 2016, only because I wanted to know how many other people are in my circumstance who have either no children at all, or their children live thousands of miles away or even hundreds of miles away. And maybe they live with a spouse, maybe they don't. But I called it elder orphans only because it's a medically researched term which really describes, it was coined by a geriatrician back in the UK in the 1980s, where he discovered, while working in nursing homes, he discovered people who are aging alone and living then in nursing homes have higher risks of early death, early onset of dementia, exacerbated chronic illnesses, and several other risks that they face when they have no one to watch out for them. So he called us, or the group that I belong to, elder orphans. And I know a lot of people despise that name or that term, but it's really, it's a medically researched term, and it's used to describe the risks and the reasons why we need to prepare for growing older and growing older alone. And this is my family. This is me in the gold, sitting next to my brother. That's my mom. And this was about a year before she passed away. And that's my dad. He lived with Alzheimer's. And before my mother's death, his dementia or his Alzheimer's didn't really go into full bloom until my mom died, which is understandable because of the stress that he faced. And then, of course, that's my sister on the other side. And believe me, it took all three of us to help our parents. And so once my parents died, I started to think about all the things that my sisters and even brother did for our parents. And I realized that, I'm going to be on my own, and I had better start making some sort of transformation in terms of aging better. At the time, I was 55, and I'm very, very grateful that I started at that age. And but when I first started, I thought I was on total overwhelm. And because just coming off of family caregiving, I realized how burdensome aging is, not just on the family caregivers, but also on the older person. And so I knew that I needed to create a purposeful way to self-manage my life as I grew older. So these are the top 10 life domains that I want to talk about today. For example, these are the same ones because quite honestly, I didn't really know where to start when I began looking at my own, when I projected how I would take care of myself as I grew older. I didn't really know where to start. So what I did is I reflected back on my family caregiving years, and I looked at all the issues that my siblings and I helped our parents with. And they range from health, faith and spirituality, purpose, social connections, support, all the way through finances and housing. These are all the top issues that I wanted to not only assess where I am, currently at the time, but also I wanted to set up a plan that I knew that I could grow, probably I would say healthy through all the stages of growing older. And I wanted to make sure each domain was as strong as possible. So I created a best practice guided direction for myself, which I now share with people like you and other people who are in the same circumstances. And what I teach people to do and what I mentor them to do is to look at where they are right now, because it's my opinion, and it's through the years of all my research, if a person doesn't know where they are right now, then there is no way that they can create a plan to make their lives better, because you have to understand, where am I right now? What are my risks right now? And looking at the top 10 domains, how do they rate? How do I evaluate myself right where I am right now? And then once you know where you are, where you fall short, and where you excel, where your strengths are, then you're able to really think through and kind of start to imagine where I want to be 1 year, 5 years, even 10 years down the road. And that's exactly what I did. And so just to let you know, it took me about 7 years to get me from where I was at the beginning to where I wanted to be. So you have to have a lot of patience and just know you have to stay focused and just keep on keeping on. And you can make it fun, and I try to do that because we all want to age well, and we all want to thrive as we're growing older. So I put together a guided or best practice in ways to get where we want to go. Okay, so I want you to pull out your pen right now, pen and pad, and you're going to do just a very quick assessment, because I want to spend some time not just on each particular aspect while we evaluate where we are right now with our health and all the other top 10 domains, but I want to just kind of briefly address how to kind of approach each aspect of it. So I'm going to ask you, how satisfied are you? And then you answer 1 through 5. Just write it down, 1 through 5. 1 being, I'm very dissatisfied. I'm not doing well at all in this particular aspect. And 5 is, I'm doing great. I don't need anything. I'm fabulous here. So many of your answers may be a 3, which is, I'm not dissatisfied, nor am I completely content. So just write it down. And the first question is, how satisfied are you with the knowledge that you have about your family medical history? You know, our medical history is very, very important for us to know and to understand, because it really gives us kind of a compass of the kinds of diseases or chronic illnesses that we could face or likely face in the future. So how satisfied are you with your family medical history? And then how satisfied are you with your body weight? Do you feel like it's under control? And do you have knowledge of the number, excuse me, I have a very sensitive mouse. I might have to well, anyway, okay. So the number of chronic diseases and how well do you manage them? Do you know how many you have? And do you eat a healthy and nutritious diet the majority of the time? So now I'm going to briefly go back through. So just rate all of those. And then a good way to look at this, knowing your family medical history, is I really advise people to get as much information as you can about the history of your family and their medical problems, and then talk to your doctor about it. That's what I did, and we came up with a care plan. We also, I also got the advice of a dietitian, and then we created different ways to keep my body weight at a decent, decent weight. And then I really got to understand the potential chronic diseases, knowing my mom and dad and my grandparents and even my great grandparents. And I feel very fortunate to know my family medical history all the way back to my great grandparents. And then we changed my diet through the help of a dietitian. Okay, the next one is social connections. So how satisfied are you with your friendships, and do you stay engaged with your friends? And how healthy are your friendships? Are you satisfied with it? What about do you keep an active schedule, or is it a satisfying schedule, frequent social engagements? You can rate that 1 through 5. And friendships, are they well balanced? Do you give more than you receive, or do you receive more than you give? And what about your support network? Is it a strong one? Is your companions and your friends, is it a strong network? And the local community where you live, and I bet you do, since you are part of this organization, you probably participate with some of the on-site activities, which is really, really wonderful. And it's a great place to meet with like-minded peers. And so so just focus on gaining more friendships. Now, when you do that, and when I did it originally back several years ago, I realized that it takes time. So have patience. You're not going to make immediate, and you know this, you're not going to make immediate friends right away. That's why we have to just constantly stay in tune and always focus on where we're going. So focus on meeting new people and really developing strong relationships. The next one is a support network. And this is, I think, one of the very, very important ones. And having people around right where you live. Do you have people that help each other out? And that would include neighbors, friends, social acquaintances. It could be places where you go for activities like this organization, PSS, and then also to stay, how satisfied are you with developing a network of peers for safety check-ins? For example, do your neighbors and your friends either text or call you several times a week just to check in on you, or perhaps every day? Do you have some sort of a check-in with one another to make sure that each of you are doing okay and that you haven't fallen and you're safe? And how reliable are the people around for helping you? Do you trust them? It's very important that we have reliable people that we can trust and count on. And do you have a strong base of peers to share problems and worries? And how satisfied are you with that base of peers? Financial matters. I like to think of financial matters as kind of the centric focal point of retirement and growing older. Not to say that it's the very most important, but it's very centric to our retirement and our stability. But there are many things that other domains that are important as well that we need to pay attention to. For example, emergency funds. Are you satisfied with your emergency funds? And if you're not, how can you increase that fund? Because I've read there's a lot of debate around how much you should have in your emergency fund. But for me, I like to prepare for at least 6 months in advance to handle all of my bills, just in case. And are you satisfied with your debt and credit scores, which is very important to have good credit? And your retirement savings, how happy or satisfied are you with that? And you're going to rate that 1 through 5. And your checking and your savings account. Because financial matters is extremely important. And it's always good to have a fallback. Faith and spirituality, I think, is extremely important. Now, for me, I'm a Christian, so I have a very strong sense of God. And maybe perhaps for you, you have a sense of a higher presence or a divine essence that you depend upon. to know that you'll be well taken care of. But I think it's important to have that sense of have a reliable, higher sense of divinity guiding you. And have you developed a strong role, beliefs, and attitudes about spiritualness? How satisfied are you with that? And the flourishing faith and practice. Do you practice a daily spiritual type of activity or routine that you follow each and every day? And do you have a sense of belonging to a faith community, whether that be a synagogue or a Protestant church or I can't think of another one.
A mosque
Thank you, a mosque.
or a
Thank you.
meditation center
Yeah,
or
absolutely. Thank you, Jeffrey, for helping me out there. My mind just went blank. So a sense of belonging with a faith community. I know many people that that belong to like a meditative or meditation center that they really rely on for peace, you know, to gain a sense of peace and satisfaction in their and contentment in their lives. So legal matters. How satisfied are you in this arena? Do you have your estate planning set? And if you do, have you selected a healthcare proxy or a healthcare agent or a financial agent? And do you have a medical emergency contact? I know quite a few people in my group, Facebook group, who don't have a medical emergency contact because they have very, very few friends. And that's why it's so important to build strong connections with people that we can trust and rely on. And I can't repeat that enough. And I just want to encourage people to, to step out of their comfort zone and to go out and meet new friends and make new acquaintances.
quick question about the medical, like the healthcare proxy or what have you. Can those people be local? Because a lot of us might trust our families that might be 500 or more
I
miles
know.
away.
Yes. And it's best if you have someone who's local, because what if you land in the hospital and you can't speak for yourself? And then your family member who lives across the state or in another state has to fly, and it could be several hours before they arrive to help you out. So the closer in town is preferable. And if you can, maybe some of you know a elder law attorney that you can talk to or talk through these issues. You can hire a care manager, you can hire a fiduciary, someone, or even a patient advocate to help you to kind of oversee some of these responsibilities. But again, if we could focus on building a strong network of friends, and you don't have to have a lot of friends. It doesn't have to be a lot or many of them, even if it's just three people that you feel very, that you trust, and they live pretty close to you so they can help you out. So when you do create your will and living will and trust and have all of your important paperwork, it's really significant that we make copies of it, and that our healthcare proxy and our financial agent have copies, or at least they know where you store them so they can access them, because it's important to have access to the health directives if you are, or your DNR, for example, if you land in the hospital and you can't speak for yourself. So put everything together, your doctors, your important insurance agents, your contacts, your business contacts, your financial advisor information, insurance agent, mortgage company, and organize it, put it in one place, make copies, and tell your executor where all of these copies are. And your housing and location is very important as well, because it really is, it really kind of mitigates our lifestyle conditions, our housing and location. And you can either live in an area where it's not conducive to going outside and taking a walk because it could be high crime, for example. But you want to live under and with the conditions that support a healthy lifestyle and that promotes engagement with your neighbors. That's so important. And so that's one way. How satisfied are you with your lifestyle conditions? And what about the housing costs? Can you afford it? Can you afford it? And are all of your costs, the housing costs, within your budget, and you can handle them quite easily, like property taxes and utilities and home insurance? And your long-term adjustments for aging in place. Will your home allow you to live there as you grow older? Can you use a walker, for example? Will you be able to get a walker through the threshold of a door, the doorway? And do you have easy access to healthcare and shopping in your location, right where you live? How satisfied are you with that? Or do you have to drive, 5 to 10 miles?
Someone asked a question about something you mentioned earlier. What is DNR?
Do not resuscitate. That is for if you have a terminal illness and let's say you're in stage 4 cancer, and you're about to pass away because of your level of terminal illness, but you don't want to be revived. If that's what DNR means, do not resuscitate. And do you have a life purpose? How satisfied are you with your life purpose? Life purpose to me, if I didn't have my life purpose, I don't know what I'd do. And my life purpose is doing what I'm doing with you here today, is to teach people how to age better and to be as creative as I can, and to continue being as strong as I can as I grow older. That's my purpose. So do you have a strong sense of internal drive? What gets you up in the morning? Gets you up and going in the morning? Do you even have something that gets you out of bed and going? And how satisfied are you focusing on things and activities that give you energy? And do you know what adds value and meaning in your life? And do you have an awareness of where you're headed? Your goals and what needs to be done. And that could be just a simple staying as fit as you can, right? And staying as strong as you can, and flexible, and having 1 or 2 really good friends, and staying active. And transportation, for my parents, is there a question? Okay. For transportation, my parents lived in a rural area, so a car was required for them to get around, which was really hard for them because as they became more feeble, they were unable to drive. So are you able to walk your errands if you can't drive that one day? And if you do drive, do you have safe driving skills? And do you have access to public transit and even rideshare from where you are so you can make appointments and stay engaged with your friends? And do you share rides with neighbors and friends? That's a good way to kind of create a sense of supporting each other. Is if you have to have a medical treatment and you can't drive, then asking a neighbor and sharing a ride with them and doing a reciprocating when they need a ride. And fun and engagement. So are you satisfied with the time that's spent feeling content and satisfied? And do you have enjoyable time and that you spend with friends? How satisfied are you with that? And the number of invitations that you receive for outings, and sharing a meal with friends, or having people over to your home if you ever open it up. Now, since the pandemic, some people still don't, but you can, share meals with friends in restaurants. So I'm curious, I'll give you a moment if you wish to kind of think through and maybe add up a few of those numbers and see which one is your lowest ranking, because the lowest ranking will be your top domain risk. And we can open up for discussion in just in a few minutes, because I still have more to talk about. And I have about 10 minutes, so I'll just keep going. So the next steps, just to show you, and I'm going to get to the next steps in a minute, but I wanted to show you my assessment. When I first did this about 10 years ago, it was probably more than that, but as you can see, my money was, that was my top risk. And it came in at about a 3. And I was measuring at 1 through 10 because I had more questions I was asking myself. And my life plan assessment, which I have on my website, actually walks you through 15 questions per life domain. And so I was falling short in money. The next one was my location and even my housing, because I lived in a 2-story residence, and my location was in the suburbs. So I felt very, very, very isolated and alone. My social connections were mediocre, and I had, and my support was mediocre as well. So I had a lot of work to do, especially in the money department. I was okay with my health. However, for me, after helping my parents, it really showed me that health is so important, and especially for people who are living and growing older alone. We have to stay as healthy as possible, healthy and strong, and to remain as independent for as long as we can. So I went through a transformation. I targeted my top risks, and I learned to self-manage them. So when you're looking at the possibilities, I teach people to question, because when you learn questions, when you're looking at your top risk, for example, for me, it was my financial goals. It's a good thing to start asking questions, open-ended questions that will kind of expand your brain into looking for possibilities, rather than looking and fretting about the problem. So one of my questions that I asked myself is, to get really clear on my financial goals 1 year, 5 years, and even 10 years from that point. And then to keep tracking them as I moved forward. And when I also started looking at my plan, I wanted to know what is my most pressing concern right now about my finances. And for me, it was not having a hefty checking and savings account, and also having a very I lacked in emergency funds. So I knew that that was my most pressing concern. And so then to make a commitment, what are my plans in the event that I would become disabled? So I needed to make a commitment to really rectify and make improvements with my money, and to make a plan in the event that I would become disabled. And then I developed a holistic financial plan by hiring a financial advisor. And we worked on my emergency fund, my debt, which wasn't bad at all. But I worked on my savings and checking, my retirement funds, and my assets. Now, remember, I was 55 at the time, so that was the good news. Is there
Here's
a
a
question?
question, yeah, from someone who is retired. Many of these things might not be available to many of us because we're retired. For example, we don't have many assets or any money available through a low social security income. How would we hire managers, agents, financial advisors and things of that nature? And living from paycheck to paycheck has changed from living from social security deposit to social security deposit.
Yes,
What
yes,
about
I know.
homes, cars? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know that those are a lot of questions at one time. And what we might do is maybe once we're take Q&As, we can, take one question at a time.
Hmm.
Okay. So let me finish this up, because we still have a few more slides to go through, and
Okay.
we're
We'll
getting
hold
real
them.
close.
We'll hold them to the end. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
But keep typing them, everyone. And we'll
Yes.
answer them at the end.
Yes, yes. And so, in essence, what you're wanting to do, and what I did for myself, is to find that sweet spot. Because once you know where you are right now, then you can look for ways in how to make improvements. And here's a good example that I used that was for me. The sweet spot usually is found between what it is that you want and how you want to live, or what you're trying to accomplish, and the why you are trying to accomplish it. Because what helped me when I was living in the suburbs in a single family residence, I wanted more engagement and connection with people. I felt very isolated. And the reason why, as I just said, is because I was isolated and lonely. So I started to research and to, use different types of available ways to gather information. I'd read magazines, I'd read books, I would Google, I would talk with librarians, and just get as much information as possible. And what I've learned primarily is Google can give you some really good answers. So what I came up with, I looked for ways, how can I stay engaged and connected right where I live? And I would find really great suggestions on how to create more connections, the things I can do with my neighbors to build more relationships with them, to build a support system with them. So eventually it became, you'll turn that risk into a sweet spot if you keep, if you do some of the work to make it better. And for me, in this particular situation, I found that, living in a high rise, was an answer for me. But then again, I was 7 years, it was 7 years ago. And so I moved to a high-rise building, and I have access to people right outside my door. So I learned to really you have to understand yourself, where you are right now. And that's why it's so important to do an assessment and to learn what your risks are, which for me was money. And then I worked on my health, my social connections. And then I lived in a place or a location where I had easy access to shopping and walking my errands and just going outside and staying active, because it's a very active type of community where I live. And so when you start making these changes, and I'm not suggesting that you move because you can create what it is that you hope to have right where you live right now. It just may take a matter of putting yourself out there, stepping outside of your comfort zone, and learning different strategies to help you be motivated. And one of the best ways to find motivation is to get a friend or have an accountability partner who will do things with you, and you can kind of support each other to make these needed and necessary changes. So that is the best practice guided direction of learning where you are right now, where you want to be, and then learning the strategies on how to get there. And this is my life plan assessment that I do have on my website that walks you through the full life plan. And then I have a course that walks people through, gives them the needed strategies and ways to make adjustments and make changes and improvements. And then we have a life plan group mentoring coaching type package. So I call this the power of individual control, and which gives you the gift of confidence as you grow older. So I'm going to stop sharing. I see we are coming close to our time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this presentation. Really good information there, and a lot of good considerations to think about. Yeah. It's similar to a program that we have. I was just telling you about, Explore Your Future, which is another program that helps people figure out what they want to do. And then we have Life University has a retirement base camp, which is based on the financial. So Explore Your Future is more the personal. And then you have something. So here's a person. We could go back to the person who said, what is available in retirement for people that live from Social Security deposit to Social Security deposit if they want to improve their finances, just to shorten the question. Yeah.
I don't know if your organization, Jeffrey, offers like consultation with elder law attorneys. I do know that like the Area Agency on Aging, which are all over the United States and in counties, and they offer conferences and even elder law attorneys that will meet at a either reduced price or for free, just to help clients work through some of their issues or even financial issues. There's a place here in Dallas, it's called Senior Source, which is a nonprofit, just like Coming of Age. And they offer senior service type financial advisors that will sit down with you and walk you through, some of the programs that are available and help you either budget or find ways to, like paying for your utilities, because there are some resources that can help us pay for our, utilities and even our property taxes, at least here in Texas. So I don't know if Coming of Age offers those types of programs.
Coming of Age is part of the educational arm of
Okay,
PSS.
okay.
So we offer webinars and workshops, but Life University recently offered, when do I need to hire an elder care attorney? And I believe it was led by more than one attorney, that you could certainly watch the video, find out more, and even be able to contact them or us. You can always contact us at Coming of Age at info@comingofage.org for referrals, because if it's something that we or PSS doesn't do, we can refer you to the right organization. Another
Yes.
question. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I want to reiterate that the Area Agency on Aging, sometimes called the Department of Aging, is a very helpful resource for older people that need assistance.
Yeah,
And
in
then,
New York, it was called Department for the Aging, and now it's just called New York City Aging.
okay,
So
right, great. So check them out. They have a plethora of resources, and also the National Council on Aging, that's NCOA.org, also has a resource page where it just gives you all the different resources, like helping with utilities, for food, for finances, and other types of advice that you're asking for. You just need to know where to go. We just need to be guided to where to go.
okay, yes. Here's a question. When one has distant friends, distant family, and the few don't want to have the legal burden of legal or medical responsibility, what to do?
That's when, there again, if you don't have trusted friends, then you would, I personally would go to the Area Agency on Aging and talk to them about it, because they do have guardians there that, and they might be able to recommend other types of professionals that could help you out.
Right, like you were mentioning, patient advocates and people of that nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you have to pay for those, right?
Mhm.
Patient advocates, they do charge, but you could, that's a possibility. Yes.
Okay, and then all my friends are elderly. Any suggestions on how to find younger friends who can give support?
Yeah, absolutely. Take either online classes or go to Coming of Age and have Jeffrey pull in college students to teach to teach technical skills like computer skills, and get to know these people, and maybe or take an online class at a college or a university. But for me, with my faith organization, there's a lot of younger adults that go to church there. So that's where I meet the younger people. Sometimes my neighbors are younger than I am, and we get to know each other and become friends, or we have coffee together. So absolutely, I think we all have to have younger people in our lives, especially if they are going to be in our circle of healthcare, for like a healthcare proxy, because we need younger people for those positions in our lives.
That's great. Are there any other questions from the audience? It looks like we have about 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, and this is just, a kind of a overview. I understand that many of you don't have the resources to hire professionals, but there are resources, and I'm sure PSS can help you find them. The Area Agency on Aging can help you find them. There are quite a few resources for older adults that need help to work through some of these issues.
Oh, yeah. Even AARP
Yeah,
has
yeah,
tons of resources, and even is in a lot of local communities. I know.
yeah. No, we have a chapter here in Dallas that's the state of Texas chapter, and they're
Mhm.
always giving online classes or conferences. I know that they give quite a bit of help to older
Mhm.
people that are trying to figure out some of these concerns, like our wills and budgeting, even paying our property tax or paying our income taxes. They'll do your income tax for free, the return to the IRS.
Yeah, I think New York has that as well. And uh, you had also recommended, your religious or spiritual development, where those are entire communities right there,
Yeah,
where you
faith
can
communities,
make
yes.
friends. There's something called meetup.com, which is where people who have a particular interest in anything, whatever the interest could possibly be, um, people meet up about it and socialize and talk shop about,
That's right,
you know,
that's right.
they like shopping, they like hiking, they like chess.
Yeah, and it gets you out of the house too, if you can go to some of the
Hmm.
meetups that meet in person.
Hmm. And then there's volunteerism, where you can sometimes you can learn a new skill as a volunteer, and you know help a
Meet
worthy
younger people.
cause and meet younger people.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Senior center, so Kalani workers are helpful. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, definitely um, senior centers
Oh, absolutely.
throughout throughout the state, or I think now they're called older adult centers.
Yes. Yeah. 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 They are active adult centers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. But NCOA.org will have a complete list of senior centers on their website. So just check out the NCOA. They have a lot of good programs for older adults.
Yeah,
NCOA.
hopefully I put NCOA in the chat and it
Yes, you
was to
did. I see
everyone.
it.
Okay.
I see that. I see that. Any other questions?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Carol Marak. Please let me say that again for the recording. Thank you very much, Carol Marak.
You're welcome.
There was a great deal of information and insight, and it's not it's not an easy thing to make some of these changes, but it will benefit you in the end. As you said, it was going beyond your comfort zone. A
Oh,
lot of
yes,
times putting yourself out there.
many times. Well,
Yeah.
what about you, Jeffrey? Did you learn? I know that you've been concerned because you're aging along too.
Yes, I am. And I'm learning that it would be great to have more friends. Be great to I already have the will and the all those types of legal documents lined up. I encourage everyone to get a will, a legal proxy, a healthcare proxy. Those three are very important. Do you know of any other documents along those lines?
Well, your DNR, do not
And the do not
resuscitate.
resuscitate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very important. And yeah, that like the advanced medical paperwork.
Hmm.
I think that's called advanced directives,
Right.
how you want to be cared for if you can't speak for yourself.
Yeah. And there are
Yeah.
lots of online resources where you can find documents that you can fill out, or
Mhm, mhm.
or
Yeah.
ways to get them. But
Yeah,
yeah. Yep.
one resource that I want to recommend is the American Bar Association. They have free resources there, and they also have an elder law committee that I believe offers a lot of resources and potentially can even refer you to local legal departments that do free work, or at least very highly discounted, low cost work for individuals that can't afford it. So just check out the American Bar Association.
That's great. And of course, there are coaches and mentors like Carol and other solo aging specialists and experts throughout the country that you can come
Yes.
to. And yeah, and thanks again. Thanks so
Okay,
much. We're
Jeffrey.
at the 8 o'clock hour,
All right.
or
Well, thank you all
or seven.
for coming this evening, and I hope that it was useful.
It was. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.